Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Miki here with your reaction video of the week. This week's video was suggested by my viewer Rick Wolcott, and he took advantage of a new service that I'm offering, whereby if you pay $15, you can jump to the front of my request line. And I'm so glad that he did, because he suggested a band that I had never heard of before, but apparently they are huge in Finland. They are called Poets of the Fall, and once I Googled them, I found out that they have millions and millions of followers. They've released 8 records, and they've won a lot of Emma Awards, which I guess are the Finnish version of the Grammys. And apparently they rose up through the ranks and really made a name for themselves by writing music for video games. There are 6 members in the band, and I'm sure I'm going to mutilate their names, so I really apologize, Rick. But the lead singer of the band is named Marco Saresto. The lead guitarist of the group and the other founding member is named Ali Tukiainen. The producer and keyboardist of the group is named Marcus Captain Karlonen. Jani Snellman plays bass. Jaska Mäkinen plays rhythm guitar and sings backing vocals, and Jari Salminen plays drums and percussion. The group has been around since 2003, and the track that Rick asked me to look at is called Carnival of Rust, and it's off of their 3rd record, and it's the title track. And apparently the music video for that song has won many, many awards, and it's very well regarded, and it actually was re-released as a fan HD remix, and it's really visually breathtaking. They have their own record label, and they've actually produced and released some records by other acts on that label, and I would describe their music as symphonic or progressive rock. So given that rather lengthy preamble, let's jump in and watch a live performance of this song from 2013 in Moscow. So this is Poets of the Fall, Carnival of Rust. So just aesthetically, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Dresden Dolls. Marco is wearing a bowler hat, and he's got some guy liner on and dark nail polish and a striped shirt, and then he's wearing these like leather bondage cuffs, and he has a feather boa on his microphone. So this is definitely like a very European kind of theatrical vibe. It's not like a baseball cap and basketball shorts kind of very like low-key vibe. This is definitely like theatrical. And I love that it starts out in this very sparse instrumentation kind of way, and it's very rubato. He's really playing with the timing and the rhythm, and he really has the space to use his voice. And you can tell immediately that he has a very, very good voice. So it stays pretty quiet and pretty. You get that beautiful finger picking on the acoustic guitar and just like a pad of strings on the keyboard. And immediately the crowd starts clapping along. They clearly know the song from the first few bars. So even though this is rock, it's very elegant and stately. It's not like, right away. It's like still very quiet and pretty.
Should remind you
Okay, so there's a lot to like there. Number one, I really like his phrasing. So in the verse, he's using very short phrases and then he's leaving a lot of space between those phrases. And I think that's a mark of an advanced songwriter. A lot of times when you hear a more amateurish songwriter, they'll fill up all of the space with melody and not leave any negative space to let the listener's ear rest and really take in the words. And so I love that there's so much space in the verse. And then when he hits the pre-chorus, there's longer phrases and it's much more legato. And so that naturally creates an increase in momentum as we're heading towards that big chorus drop. I also really, really like and appreciate how erudite the lyrics are. I'm a big sucker for lyrics that are very poetic and require more than one listen to interpret and that you can read a lot into. And there's some great vocabulary in here. Once we get to the pre-chorus, he has of implication, insinuation, and ill will in all this turmoil before red cape and foil come closing in for the kill. So right there, you've got some big words, some 25-cent SAT words in there. And considering that they're Finnish and English is probably not their first language, that's pretty cool. And then that red cape and foil is a really interesting image that can be interpreted a lot of ways. I mean, for me, it conjures up kind of like, the red cape in fairy tales, like Little Red Riding Hood, or it also could be like the red cape of a matador, and a foil could be like a sword in fencing. So there's so many things that you could read into that. So I really appreciate all of that. The other thing that I will say is that his voice is clearly trained, and he, even in that very short section of the song, displays a lot of different vocal techniques. You can hear that he has a very nice, natural, relaxed vibrato. There's one phrase where he uses a little flip and you get that little yodely break on purpose in his voice. He's not pushing, it sounds very relaxed, and you're getting some very, very nice breathiness in there. So there's a lot of color and variations in tone, and it just sounds like his voice is very trained. Nice. So I like that he ducks the word right before the chorus drop. So it's like kill. It's very quiet, and then the lights go out, and then the lights come up and the band comes in with this big chorus drop, and now the drums are really going and it's much more intense. But I also really like how, even though the chorus is more intense, the lyrics scan in a very simple way, so it really is easy to kind of sing along to. And it's in his very comfortable chest voice range, so he's not pushing at all. It doesn't go up high. The only note that really goes up high is that end sustain note. So he's very comfortable in his tessitura. It's the most comfortable, rich part of his range. And then that end note goes up really high, and it's a very long held out sustain note, so it has like this maximum effect that oh, and he's clearly got a lot of control. Even though he's belting that note, it's not screamed or strained in any way. And then he's got a very nice ornament at the end, which requires a lot of vocal control to do all of those little note stops in there and keep them very clean. So now we get into the second verse here. Okay, so I really appreciate also how comfortable he is. He's busy dancing, he's making really good eye contact, he's clearly a very seasoned performer. And I love the almost classical sounding guitar with the finger picking, and everything is so clean. They're so tight as a band, there are no flubs, and it's not an easy guitar part to play. So I appreciate all of that, and that's what makes me think of like a more progressive rock kind of sound, because the lyrics are very poetic and you can interpret them in a lot of different ways, and they're more complicated than your average rock song, and there are these classical elements in the music. He's also got this great vibrato at the end of this verse. I'll play that again for you so you can hear it. That's very pretty. Hope to never. You can really hear his vibrato there. Ver, and then fall. He has a really nice crescendo and then decrescendo there. So there's just a lot packed in there musically. Just the way that he's using dynamics and different tonal qualities to his voice. It's clear that he's a really good singer and musician. Nice, so very, very nice flip into his head voice there. Carnival of Rust. He has a very, very nice, pretty, breathy head voice, but it's not that weak. It's still very trained. So it doesn't like disappear when he flips up into his head voice. One thing that I do notice is that the audience has a lot of women in it. I don't know if they're panning to the pretty girls on purpose and kind of ignoring the men in the crowd, but it's funny that it seems like it's predominantly women that are there, because even though there is like a certain amount of prettiness to this, it also is like rock music, and you know, prog rock I would expect to be more like male dominated in the audience, but who knows? Another thing that I appreciate about it too is just how elegant and restrained it is in a certain sense. And in that way, it reminds me a lot of Ghost. The rhythm guitar player is sitting on a stool, and he's a good performer, and he's definitely engaged and making eye contact, but he's not like up and flailing around like you would have in a more unrestrained, bombastic, kind of like heavy metal band or something. Just the fact that he's like using a capo and like playing this like really pretty finger-picked guitar, it just has like a certain elegance and like elevated musicality to it that I really appreciate. Very cool. So you have these very distinct dynamic sections in the song, which I think is very, very smart songwriting. So you had that like breakdown section where it got very quiet and it gave the audience a chance to sing along. And then everything comes crashing back in and you have the most intense part of the song at the end. And I appreciated that the electric guitar player was playing those nice like geometric repeating figures that also were like very classical and overlaid on the rest of the song. And I did notice like one dude in the audience. So it wasn't all pretty like teenage girls in the audience. There was like one guy there. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There you have it. I just want to say thank you to Rick for suggesting this group to me. I probably never would have come across them otherwise, and I'm curious to hear more of their stuff. They clearly have a very extensive oeuvre and catalog of music that I can dive into, and I think it's very clever and intelligently done and musical, and it seems like there's a lot of similarities in a lot of ways to Ghost in how theatrical and well thought out everything is. I hope you enjoyed my review, and I will see you all next week, if not before, with another singing tip or reaction video. Until then, happy listening and happy singing.